Hello everyone, this is Logan59XP here for another episode of the Nin-Cast here on July 14th of 2021, and today I am here to give my thoughts on Loki Season 1. Yes, Season 1. For some reason you haven't watched the final episode yet, go watch it before you listen to this, because obviously I'm going to be talking about the final episode when we get to it. And yeah, that whole Season 1 thing, yeah, it's Season 1. There's going to be a Season 2, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But let's go ahead and actually start off with the first episode real quick. Actually, should I? Whenever I do these like MCU like series discussions, it's kind of like, should I start from the beginning or should I just like give my overall thoughts? Like what should I do? You know, it's kind of like complicated sometimes. Because if I went back and watched like the previous episodes, that'd probably be easier. But the thing is, I only have watched each of the episodes like one time, so it's kind of hard to really talk about that. You know, we'll just go in order, or at least try to. So, okay, Loki of course starts off with the scene from Endgame, where Loki takes the Tesseract from the Avengers and he disappears, and then he disappears until like the Mongolian desert or something like that. I'm pretty sure they flashed like a location on the screen when that happened. I just don't remember what it was. I'm just saying Mongolian desert because that's the closest thing I can think of right now. And then of course, it's obviously supposed to be a, hey look, it's like in the first Iron Man movie. Like obviously that's supposed to be the parallel. But then of course the TVA show up, they take Loki in, and this is of course where we're introduced to, well, the TVA. And of course, we got that neat little. I love how they have that little animated video with Miss Minutes. That's like in 4:3, and it has like the old 60s style to it. I thought that was really cool. I like it when they do stuff like that. See, obviously we get that. Loki's taken before the council, or whatever. And then of course Loki's all like, I don't belong here, or whatever. All that stuff. And then it eventually leads into Loki coming across Mobius, who is played by, what's his name? Owen Wilson? Who, fun fact, is actually the voice of Lightning McQueen. I'm just reporting that to you because I heard that, apparently, from someone. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, actually, yeah, it is the same person. But, anyways. Did I just say Morbius? Oh my god. Morbius. What am I this isn't Spider-Man. Morbius. When's that movie coming out? Do we even have a release date for it? I'm getting off track right now, but I'm actually curious because I don't remember. Morbius. January 28th, 2022. Hey, one day before my birthday, which is on January 29th. That's kind of neat, but anyways. Sorry, Mobius. Mobius is the name of the character. So obviously he, takes, Loki in, interrogates him, all that stuff. They go into that one room that they go into quite a few times. And then we get that, scene where it's, again, sorry if this is very, kind of scatterbrained. I'm trying to remember what happens in, the earlier episodes. If you want a more, in-depth, proper discussion of this stuff, there's plenty of videos on YouTube, so... just saying. This is not meant to be some super in-depth whatever. It's just me kind of talking about the show when I think about it. But I'm trying to go in order here. So what was I going to say? Wow. So yeah, so we have that little sequence where, Mobius, he goes through what, has happened to Loki and whatnot, and then of course there's that part. Is it in the first episode or the second episode? I forget when it happens, but there's of course that thing where it's hey, they show how, because obviously the Loki in the show, right? The Loki in the Loki series is not current Loki or would have been current Loki. It's 2012, the first Avengers Loki. So he obviously doesn't know about Thanos and stuff. But then obviously he sees his future and sees that he dies by Thanos and all that stuff. Again, is that in the first or second one? I don't remember. I feel bad for not remembering. But the point is, like, he sees that projection where he sees, all his entire future, everything that happens, how he dies. And then, of course, Mobius is, comes back in or whatever, and he's like, we need you for something. We need you to help track down you, which of course is, this variant. And of course we get introduced to the concept of variants in like that Miss Minutes video. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's episode 1. Episode 2, which is ironically called The Variant. This is the episode where, Mobius and Loki, they go to different time periods and try to stop this variant. Right? That whole thing. That's kind of the whole point of that episode, as far as I can remember, at least. And then, again, I'm sorry if I'm screwing this up or I'm not getting all the details correct. But the point is, at some point during that episode, Loki figures out, he finds out about Ragnarok, right? Because he saw that he dies from Thanos, but he didn't know about Ragnarok. And then he finds out about Ragnarok, and then he finds out the whole thing where it's the variant is hiding in apocalyptic events because they can go undetected by the TVA because it won't show up on their little graph or whatever. Because of, hey, anyone that's obviously in an apocalyptic situation is going to die anyway. And, that's supposed to be because, time is set, all is set, the right path or whatever the heck the whole thing with the timekeepers are. Oh, yeah, we'll get to the timekeepers in a sec. I've kind of almost forgotten that the timekeepers exist in this show because of what we end up finding out. But, yeah. So, point is, they eventually deduced that, okay, we're going to go to, I think, 2050 during a hurricane, which of course is a apocalyptic event. Even though I wouldn't call a hurricane an apocalyptic event in the same way that because they go to Pompeii, right? There's that scene where they go back to Pompeii. That's an apocalyptic event. I don't know if I'd call a hurricane one. It's a bad event, but it's not an apocalyptic event. At least I would consider it that anyway. But anyways, so they go there. And then they end up finding another variant who's disguised as someone else. And okay. Now this is gonna be a very random and weird thing to concentrate on. But I remember when I saw it in the episode, I was like, wait, what? What? Why? And this has nothing to do with Loki or the variant or any of that stuff. It's literally something that's so superfluous it doesn't matter, but it's something that was really weird to me. So when they're in the store, which is basically Walmart, they obviously don't call it Walmart, but it's Walmart. I mean, look at the store. It's Walmart. It's MCU Walmart. So when they're in the I know it has an actual name, but I don't remember, and it doesn't matter. So when they're in the Walmart and they're Loki's walking around or whatever, trying to find the variant or whatever. There's that section or whatever. There's that part in there where they focus on because how there's the time reset things. I'm pretty sure that the variant had a time reset thing or whatever set up to automatically go off at a certain time, I think. And you can see when they show where it is. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe they're showing something else when this happens. But I just remember there's a scene where they show shelves of stuff. And they have HyperX headphones on the shelf. Not fake HyperX headphones. Real HyperX headphones you can go on Amazon right now and buy. And I'd be fine with that if this was in the modern day period. But it's not. It's in 2050. Why do we have HyperX headphones in 2050? I get it. Product placement, all that stuff, but cuz I have the box. They show HyperX earphones or whatever during that scene, and it's literally the exact same box I have sitting on my shelf right now that I'm looking at as I'm talking. And it's what? Like that just kind of like brought me out of the show for a second, because it was like, wait, what? Why do we have these modern 2019, 2020, whatever, era HyperX earphones in this show? It was like really weird. Like that felt like really out of place and blatant to me. I know that might sound like a weird thing to emphasize, but it was just weird because it's literally the exact same box. They didn't change the box at all. It's literally the same box, and it's like, why would a Walmart in 2050 be selling HyperX like these like 2020 era HyperX earphones? Why would they be selling 30-year-old earphones or headphones? It makes no sense. Again, I know it's a weird thing to emphasize on because it doesn't matter, but that was just so weird when I saw it that I feel like I had to bring it up. But anyway, so HyperX weirdness aside, the episode of course ends with us finding out that, okay, this variant is, it's a female variant of Loki or whatever. And then she, escapes with like the little like portal thing the TVA has, and then Loki goes with, and then that's the end of episode 2. So now, where's my mouse? So now it's gonna go into episode 3. Episode 3, from what I can remember, is this the one where they go to the planet? No. Is it? Yeah. So episode 3 is the one where they go to that doomed planet, right? I forget what the planet's called. But it's like a moon. No, it's a moon that's gonna be crushed by a planet. And they have only like a couple hours or whatever to, like, I think 6 hours or 4 hours. I forget the time period they say in the episode. But, they have a limited amount of time to get off because they broke the portal thing, so they can't use that. But, okay. There's an arc, right? There's an arc that's going to get us off the planet. We'll just get on that arc and we'll be good. So they go through Loki goes through, wacky hijinks, getting on the train and all that stuff. There's that one scene where he's drunk and everything, all that stuff. And then they finally get to the Ark, or the place where the Ark is. And of course, it kind of reminds me of what's that episode of Futurama where like they all have to get off of Earth because the Earth is about to like. Because the Mayan calendar, the Martian calendar, that episode, right? Because Futurama, right? That was in like the last. Was it in the last season or in like the first? No, that was in the last season. I remember watching like the first half of the last season of Futurama when it first aired on Comedy Central. So I vividly remember that episode. I like that one. I know that I know we're getting off topic here. I know that the latter two, I love Futurama. It's probably my favorite TV show of all time. So of course, any excuse to bring up Futurama, I'll be more than happy to do. But anyways, what was I getting to? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So yeah, so this whole situation of they got to get off the doom, they got to get off the planet. Or get off, get off of where they are right now and escape the apocalypse. That reminded me very much of that Futurama episode where they have to get off the Earth with the Martian, pyramid ship thing. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the episode. It's basically kind of that. It's obviously not exactly the same, but it feels like it borrows from that. It's probably not on purpose. I'm sure it doesn't actually borrow from that episode on purpose, but it reminded me of that episode a lot. Especially the part at the end where everyone's like, "Hey, let us on! You can't just let us die," because obviously there's a certain amount of people that the ship can hold in that episode, so they have to there's that whole verification thing, and obviously there's the whole thing where Leela gets to go but Fry can't. Or no. Fry can go but Leela can't, and then of course Fry being Fry. He sacrifices himself, basically, doesn't literally sacrifice himself, but he sacrifices himself so Leela can go and all that stuff. And then, of course, it turns out that actually, no, Mars is the one that's actually getting the apocalypse and everything. But again, sorry, I'm getting way off track here. We're supposed to be talking about Loki, not Futurama, but just the resemblance to that episode was very obvious to me, so that's why I'm bringing it up. But the point is, they get on the train. Eventually, hijinks happen. They find out that oh, you don't actually have a ticket. So they get kicked off basically. Well, they don't literally get kicked off, but they end up getting off the train. We'll just say that. And then they have to, slowly walk their way towards, the place with the Ark. Then they get there. Then, of course, there's chaos in the streets, like there is in that Futurama episode where they're like, hey, let us in, da-da-da-da-da. And it's basically that, because I'm sure, like in that episode, in, this episode, I'm sure that, obviously they have to determine who's allowed to be on the Ark or whatever, how, or maybe it's a first come, first serve, which is why everyone's scrambling, I don't know. So obviously Loki and Sylvie try to get on it. And then right as they're about to get through the gates, the Ark gets blown up. And in that moment, literally everyone just freezes. Like all the chaos in the streets just dies, and they just are sitting there staring up. And then you see Sylvie walk away. And then that's the end of the episode. And of course the cliffhanger is, how are Loki and Sylvie gonna get out of this one? And of course everyone's just sitting there still because, well, their one chance at survival is gone. So it's everyone's just well, I guess there's no point fighting anymore. It doesn't matter, we're all gonna die now. But of course we all know Loki and Sylvie are obviously gonna make it out. And then that brings us to episode 4. At the beginning of episode 4, we see Loki and Sylvie sitting by that lake, right? We see them sitting by the lake. Just kind of sitting there. Just kind of waiting for it to all be over. And then it happens. I say it because it's the one, it's that thing that I think we all knew from the last episode they were probably gonna do, but it was just a matter of time. And of course this gets officially 100% confirmed at near the end of the last episode, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But then we have that scene where Loki is lack of a better term, Loki just kind of is flustered. That's the best word I can come up with, is that he's just flustered. And because of that, because he's flustered, because he likes Sylvie, it causes this big branch in the timeline, which allows Mobius and the TVA to find them and rescue them. So it's okay. So that happens, they get back, Loki gets imprisoned in a time loop from the past with Sif, actually, Lady Sif. Yeah, remember Lady Sif? Remember any of those old characters? Feels like everyone's kind of forgotten about them ever since Ragnarok. Although Lady Sif was not killed off. The other ones were killed off by Hela in Ragnarok, but I don't think Lady Sif ever got killed off. Plus, they always gave Lady Sif a little more than the others. Not a ton, but they always kind of gave Lady Sif a little more than some of the others. But anyways, yeah, that happens. It's you lying imbecile, or whatever the heck the line Lady Sif says. That happens, 1,000 times, and Loki is eventually just please stop. And then eventually Mobius comes in. They go back out. Then they start talking again, I think. And then, oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. What's her name? B-15? That one TVA soldier or whatever you want to call them, or timekeeper or whatever. Not timekeeper, because timekeeper is the other things from later. But one of the time patrol. She's a time patrol member, right? She because of what Sylvie did in a previous episode. I forgot to bring this up when I talked about episode 2. In episode 2, I think Sylvie subdues B-15, then she discovers that wait, I had another life before this or whatever. And then there's the whole thing where Sylvie's you're all, you're all, you're all like, like under the TVA's control. Your lives have been taken away, all that stuff. They used to have a life before this. And then, but the point is, this episode, the main thing about this episode, episode 4, which is the one we're talking about now, is that it culminates in Loki and Sylvie ending up finally being able to meet the Timekeepers. And then, a battle ensues. And then it turns out that, wait, the Timekeepers are fake? So that ends up happening. And then that's more, and then, like, and then I think, in another, like, Loki kind of, like, showing his feelings to Sylvie somewhat, even though it's not, like, super blatant in the same way that the last scene I mentioned on, like, the doomed planet was. There's that one scene where, like, I think he tries to protect her or whatever. And then, like, Loki ends up getting erased because of what's her name? What's the name of, like, the head honcho of the TVA? Or what's her name? Ravonna Renslayer is what it says right here. By the way, I have, like, the Wikipedia entries for all these episodes up as I'm talking to them, just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Just saying. But, yeah, I believe that's her name. So, she ends up, erasing Loki with, the stick thing. And then, of course, Sylvie eventually, is able to subdue her. And she's like, you're going to tell me everything. And then, another cliffhanger. And now we enter episode 5, right? We're nearing the end here. Up nearing the end here. And, of course, oh, sorry. No, I'm forgetting about something. The post-credit scene for episode 4, which is basically the equivalent to the Evan Peters reveal in episode 5 of WandaVision, and the, like, John Walker, I believe was his name, like the new Captain America that didn't actually end up being Captain America for that long, where he brutally killed that guy with the shield. Like, this post-credit scene for Loki was like that moment for Loki, where, like, Loki, he ends up in, like, an apocalyptic New York or whatever. It's not actually New York, I think, but, just some apocalyptic city. And then you see all the other Lokis, and then, of course, everyone's like, oh, multiverse Loki, yeah! And then we enter episode 5. And this entire episode is all in the void. Because when you're erased, you get taken to the void. You don't just die. No, you're actually taken somewhere. You're taken to the void. A place that everyone who's ever been really erased by the TVA lives, basically. And there's a crap ton of Lokis there. We see classic Loki from the comics. We see Kid Loki. We see Alligator Loki. We see a bunch of other Lokis later on. There's, like, a Thor Loki. All that stuff. And the entire episode is basically around, the Loki we know and those Lokis, and, them trying to kind of, like, do their thing. Loki's like, okay, I'm getting out of here. And the other Lokis are like, ha, please, just try. It's not happening. But then he eventually manages to convince them to at least, like, take him to, like, the beast. Because Loki deducts that, the way of us getting out of here is by taking down that beast, like the big cloud. I forget what the name of the cloud is, so don't shoot me. But, that cloud, right, that they need to take down. Or whatever. So they go there. And, Loki, eventually Sylvie ends up showing up there, and Mobius, because Mobius got erased in a previous scene in one of the other episodes. I don't remember when it happened. I just remembered that he did end up getting erased at some point. And then, Mobius, Sylvie, Loki, they all kind of unite up, but then they all kind of, they try to formulate this plan to, like, take down the cloud. Again, I know the cloud has a name. I'm just going to call it a cloud because it's easy and simple and we all know what I'm talking about. So, Sylvie and Loki come up with a plan where Loki is going to basically distract the cloud while Sylvie tries to kill it or whatever. But then, eventually during that whole thing, we see the other Lokis, or sorry, not the other Lokis, but like the classic Loki, who's played by Richard E. Grant, I believe. He comes in, he like helps out. He makes like a mock version of Asgard to kind of like help stave off the beast and whatnot. Because actually, no, because sorry, did I say kill? Sorry, I'm an idiot. Again, I'm sorry that I'm not getting all these details 100% correct. Sorry, no, the plan is Loki's gonna distract the Cloud, and then Sylvie's gonna enchant the Cloud. So, because if she can enchant the Cloud, then they'll be able to figure out where like where the person behind all of this is. And eventually, thanks to the classic Loki, sacrificing himself to help out, Loki and Sylvie, Sylvie is able to, again, apologies for this sounding like a very jumbled mess, probably, but yeah, Sylvie ends up enchanting the Cloud, and it ends up opening up like a portal basically to some kind of castle or building, and then that's where the 5th episode ends. And now we come to the final episode, the one that just came out today. And thankfully, this one did not have a ton going on, so I'll be able to tell you basically exactly what happens pretty easily without having to worry about anything. So they get there, they end up getting into the building, and then all of a sudden, Miss Minutes shows up. And at first I was like, are they actually gonna do? Because I saw people memeing on "Watch it be Miss Minutes all along" or whatever. And it's like, but no, because then she's like, he is very pleased with how far you have gone. He is the, what's that line? There's like a line that like Miss Minutes says about him, and I can't remember, and I feel like an idiot for not remembering. He who remains, right? He who remains, that whole thing, right? So they end up, stumbling upon the one that's behind all of this. And before we talk about it, there were 2 people that everyone thought this was going to be. The first was Kang the Conqueror, because he like has apparently a lot to do with time, and there was some like references to him in some of the earlier episodes. So people are saying Kang the Conqueror or King Loki. It ended up being another Loki variant. And I thought it was going to be a Loki variant. I was convinced it was going to be a Loki variant because I was kind of like, are they really going to put someone as notable as Kang in here? Like, I don't know. But no. They actually, turns out that yes, the one that's behind all of this, the one that's controlling time and writing the future or whatever, or at least as far as we could tell at that point, was actually Kang. Not Conqueror Kang with like the iconic look, but like a non-controlling version. There's a name for this version of Kang. I don't remember what it is, so please don't shoot me. There's a name for this version of Kang, but the point is, turns out Kang is the one behind all this, and believe it or not, from that point onward until basically the very end, the entire episode is basically just Loki and Sylvie, like, talking with Kang. Most of it is Kang just explaining, like, everything, like how all this is and everything, and then eventually Sylvie's like, no, you're lying. And then Loki is like, no, I actually think I think he's actually telling the truth. And then, Sylvie's like, I can't trust you, all that stuff. And then eventually Sylvie and, Loki have a little duel, kind of. Then Sylvie, tries to kill Kang. And then it all ends with, like, Loki kind of subduing her and being like, look, I'm a liar. I'm a trickster. I can tell you for a fact he's not lying. And then he has, like, a little thing he says. And then the thing I talked about earlier where I said, oh yeah, there's a part where they just literally confirm it. And then at the end of like that scene, Sylvie Sylvie kisses Loki. then they have that little scene as Kang is just sitting there looking at them, which is like kind of weird. But yeah, so we have that. And then after that happens, Sylvie pushes Loki back into the TVA using a portal. And then once that happens, Sylvie kills Kang. Again, like, of course, when I say Kang, I'm not talking about Kang the Conqueror Kang. It's a different variant of Kang, or whatever. And also during this whole time, we find out that Kang only knew what was going to happen up until a certain point. And then after a certain point, he doesn't know. And once this point happens, you see in the background the actual physical manifestation of the timeline begins to split for real, not just on that little TVA screen. Like an actual real timeline begins to have a bunch of splinters that go off for a long time. So yeah, we find out that Sylvie kisses Loki, all that stuff. Sylvie sends Loki back to the TVA, or at least as far as we can tell, it's the TVA. We'll get to that in a second. Then, she kills Kang, and then she just kind of like sits there. And then it cuts back to Loki in the TVA, and then Loki is going off trying to find Mobius so he can explain everything that just happened. So they find Mobius in B-15, and he's like, "Okay, we found it. We found the guy. We made a huge mistake. We killed him, and because of that, now there's gonna be billions of this guy, and everything's screwed. We gotta prepare ourselves for war." And then Mobius says, "Wait, who are you? Who are you?" And then you hear B-15 calling for like backup, obviously to take down this stranger that they've just appeared. And that's where it's like, wait, what? And then it pans to Loki looking at a statue of Kang, like proper Kang with like, all of his attire and whatnot. And then that's the end. That's the end of Loki Season 1. Well, okay, there's one other scene. There is a post-credit scene, but it's not really a post-credit scene. And okay, so you know how in a lot of the Marvel movies, they'll have the X character will return in X movie. They did that for Loki. But they didn't just do black text on they didn't do white text on a black background. They actually did a little neat little spin on it where it's like the TVA papers and it has a stamp and then it says Loki will return in season 2. So that's one of the reasons why I was again debating on saving this for when season 2 comes out, because I was because the story's on a cliffhanger, it's not over yet. But whatever. And that is Loki Season 1. So yeah, I know I probably glossed over a lot of stuff, but trust me when I say this was a very interesting series. I definitely liked it more than Falcon and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier was a lot more, typical MCU. There were some cool moments, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely a lot more typical, really focused on the action and, all that stuff. But Loki is a lot more like WandaVision, where it feels very different, where it's not just your typical, fighting with CG everywhere and all that. And don't get me wrong, I like that as much as everyone else does, but it's nice to have something different, especially for a long form TV series where you have a lot more time as opposed to the 2 to 3 hours you get in just a movie, which is I think one of the reasons also why Black Widow felt a little weird to me. If you want to see my thoughts on Black Widow, I uploaded the video a couple days ago, so go listen to that. But because Black Widow is a 2 hour. How long is Black Widow? I actually don't know how long it actually is. I just said it was a 2-hour movie in that video, but I don't actually know if it's really that long or not. Apologies if you can hear keyboard typing. Is it actually 2 hours? It's 2 hours and 11 minutes or whatever. Whatever, you get the point. It's a 2-hour movie as opposed to say WandaVision, which had 9 episodes that were at least 30 minutes long. So that's a lot. You can cram in, people are talking about, Marvel was talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier and how it's a 6-hour movie. Yeah. And one of the benefits of it being basically a 6-hour movie is that you get more time to develop the characters and the story, whereas when you go back to a 2-hour movie, it's different. That's something about the MCU Disney Plus shows I think a lot of us have like really kind of grown accustomed to. Is just the idea that now we have all this time. We have way more time to develop as opposed to what we had before. So going back to a regular movie is kind of like, But, yeah. But anyways, so yeah, that is Loki. Definitely a good series. I don't really have any big complaints with it, but it's definitely a series that I would say is definitely. I mean, of course, if you're an MCU fan and you haven't watched the series yet, go watch it. Go on Disney Plus, watch all the episodes, catch yourself up so you can get ready for season 2. Also, it's been confirmed that Kang the Conqueror is going to be the next big bad. That was confirmed by Marvel Studios recently. Also, Loki is going to be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which doesn't really surprise me because the whole ending of the timelines going crazy in Loki Season 1 is very obviously a setup for all the multiversal stuff we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years. Like obviously Doctor Strange and whatnot. We had all the weird stuff with the Nexus and WandaVision, even though that wasn't strictly a multiversal thing. We thought it might be a multiversal thing at first, because of the whole Evan Peters thing, but of course it ended up, no, that was just like nothing, unfortunately. Ralph Boner. Boner. That's my only real complaint with WandaVision, is just that never amounted to anything. Like, come on. Why couldn't that have been something? But anyways. But yeah, Loki being in Doctor Strange 2 really isn't that surprising considering what's happened in the series so far. But, yeah, so that's going to be very interesting. Doctor Strange really is shaping up to be this, really big movie. Similar to another multiversal movie that, of course, is going to be following in the wake of Loki and all the timelines splitting off. And that, of course, is, well, Spider-Man. So, I need to make another video talking about... I haven't talked about, stuff... I haven't talked about any of that stuff in a while, but, just... That's probably the biggest thing that's going to come out of all this timeline, variant stuff is, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home. Because, obviously, in Loki, they talk a lot about the whole, the variants, how, the variants might seem similar on the paper, but they can be very different. That is a very obvious setup to me for what's going to happen with Spider-Man when we, of course, end up getting Tobey and Andrew from other universes or other timelines or whatever, and they're gonna be because Doctor Strange is gonna be in that movie too, right? And since he's gonna, so maybe we'll get this thing where it's Tobey and Andrew, they're variants or whatever, or whatever ends up happening with that, whether they're variants from another timeline or it's multiversal stuff. Either way, man, the future of the MCU is going to be really interesting. Just Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, all that multiversal timeline stuff is going to be very, very interesting. And of course, especially Spider-Man, what we're looking forward to. Black Widow's now out, and Loki is now finished for now. And we still don't have a Spider-Man trailer. We have a couple of trailers for Shang-Chi. We have at least one trailer for Eternals. And we don't have anything for Spider-Man yet. Come on, Sony, get on that already. The multiverse is here. It's so obviously here. Literally, Alfred Molina was like, oh yeah, the multiverse. We know it's happening. Just give us the trailer now. Is Tobey or Andrew going to be in the trailers? We don't know, but come on. Start talking about that movie already. It's the one everyone wants to see. Let's be real here. I know people are looking forward to Doctor Strange. I know people are looking forward to Thor. But Spider-Man's the one movie everyone wants to see. Everyone's hyped for Spider-Man. I know some people are worried that it's not going to Spider-Man's going to be kind of a mess. And it could be. But that's a whole other topic. This is a video about Loki. I might make a video talking about No Way Home stuff. I might save that for another time. Because No Way Home is a whole topic unto itself, of course. But... anyways, so bottom line is the end of Loki is very obviously a setup for Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, and I'm definitely really looking forward to see how that goes. So, yeah, Loki, good show. Tom Hiddleston is great as always. I liked Mobius a lot. he was a neat character. I like Sylvie. I know some people are iffy on the whole Sylvie x Loki thing. Honestly, I don't really care. I'm fine with it because it's not actually. Because yes, Sylvie is another Loki, but Sylvie is very different than Loki. They're basically two separate characters. I don't really see what the big deal is. If they're two completely different characters that just happened to originate from the same point, if you get what I'm trying to say. So I don't really see a big deal with it. I think it's fine, but, I'm sure that obviously Sylvie is going to show up again. Maybe we'll see her in Doctor Strange. That's not confirmed. Loki is confirmed to be in Doctor Strange, but Sylvie is not. We might see her in Doctor Strange. Maybe we'll just have to wait till season 2 whenever that happens, but yeah. But yeah, Loki, definitely a good show. I don't think I'm gonna see. So, I guess if I'm ranking the MCU shows we have so far, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki, I think WandaVision is always going to be my favorite, just because of the insanity that was WandaVision, all the rumors and leaks and discussion and everything. The whole thing with Evan Peters, right? That whole thing. I feel like it's impossible for any future MCU show to reach the same, to reach that level. Falcon and Winter Soldier had none of that, and Loki had some of that, but still not to the level of WandaVision. With WandaVision, we were all X-Men, Doctor Strange, this, that. Is Evan Peters from the Fox X-Men universe, all that stuff, right? And then with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, there was none of that. There was no big speculation because the show wasn't about that. It wasn't about this crazy stuff. It was just about Sam and Bucky doing their thing or whatever. It wasn't that deep, is what I'm trying to say, right? But Loki is much more in line with WandaVision in the sense that it's this grand, more epic scale of what's going on. Although I think Loki's scale is definitely bigger than WandaVision's, just because obviously it's about time. It's about the flow of time and all that stuff. That's obviously a much bigger deal than than what Wanda. Even though obviously what Wanda did with controlling everyone, making this fictional town was very impressive. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? The scale of Loki with the TVA, the Infinity Stones are paperweights to the TVA. That is the insanity. That's the level that the TVA is at. The Infinity Stones are literally nothing to them. They have a drawer full of them, and apparently they have way more in a closet or something. And that's a moment I thought was very cool or very cool, neat. In I think that was near the end of the first episode or whatever. I think it was in the first episode where he first goes to the TVA for the first time, and then he ends up stumbling upon that one guy who's dude, can you just leave me alone? And then he's oh yeah, because he's trying to get the Tesseract back so he can escape, right? And then he's oh yeah. And then he's wait, is that an Infinity Stone? And then he's oh yeah, we have tons of these, whatever. And then that's the moment where he's the Infinity Stones have been relegated to just a paperweight. That's when he truly realizes the insane scale and power of the TVA, when the Infinity Stones, the most sought after, most powerful objects in the universe, are nothing to them. Nothing. They don't even work. They're just literally paperweights. Shiny, glowing, beautiful looking paperweights. But anyways. So yeah, WandaVision I feel is always going to hold a special place for me just because of the insanity that was that entire show. Also, the theme song in WandaVision is fantastic. The theme song in Loki is good too, but I like the one in WandaVision more. Or maybe it probably doesn't help that it's kind of nostalgic. What's weird? WandaVision, I feel for a lot of people, WandaVision feels it's really old, but WandaVision's is only 4 or 5 months old. WandaVision was not that long ago, but it feels it was way longer ago than it actually was, right? But yeah, I really liked so the theme song for Loki is good. I like the theme song for WandaVision a bit more, but I like the one in Loki. So yeah, overall, WandaVision would probably still be my favorite. at least from the experience of WandaVision was definitely like something that cannot be ever matched, I feel. Falcon Winter Soldier was, it was nice, but ultimately wasn't anything amazing. And then Loki was solid. It was good. Not as interesting as, not quite as like, holy shit as like, as WandaVision, at least to me. Again, like it's really hard to top the Evan Peters reveal, right? It's really hard to top that. But obviously, we got some pretty crazy things in Loki. But anyways, enough of me rambling. What did you guys think about Loki Season 1? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Were there episodes that you thought were really good or others you thought were really bad? What are your overall thoughts on Loki? And are you looking forward to the multiverse of madness that is going to be the MCU going forward with, well, Multiverse of Madness and, of course, No Way Home, where we're going to get Tom, Andrew, Toby, Doc Ock, the Green Goblin, Electro, all these guys. It's going to be the endgame of Spider-Man. Yeah, all that stuff. Come on, Sony, please put out a new trailer. Well, hopefully now that Loki's done, and they have very obviously set up that whole thing, if it wasn't clear already, hopefully we'll get a trailer sooner rather than later. And with that being said, this is Logan59XP, and I'll see you guys next time.